Hi all, welcome back to the channel. So now we're going to start to look at an agentic AI flow using n8n with Docker. So if you don't know what n8n is, it basically allows you to build out workflows, for connecting with emails and agents and services and all different types of things. And it's worth to, search for n8n, and you'll basically be able to sort of see that there's this example that is provided, and we're going to kind of just build it. So I've got the Docker file here, and you can sort of see that n8n uses this image. Okay, so I'm just going to sort of say that this is the official n8n image as the base. So we're going to take this n8n and we're going to build out this Docker file, and we're going to sort of see if we can actually get it to run. So if I'm going to go back to my notes, I've created a new folder here called Agentic AI Flows n8n Docker. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is actually make sure that I actually have the Docker file in the folder. So I'm going to start to actually build. So I'm going to take this over, and I'm going to just sort of see what's actually in my folder first of all. And I have a Docker file. Okay, so then I'm going to just kind of, look at this Docker file, and you can sort of see that I actually have the same as the notes. So, from here, what I've kind of done is, because we're learning about, AI and different services that's part of AI, what I've done here is I've actually asked AI, ChatGPT, to actually explain this Docker. So I've passed in the Docker file to it. And I've sort of said, just tell me line by line what it actually does. So n8n, as you sort of see, so it's an open source workforce automation tool like Zapier and Node-RED. And the base image already contains Node.js, n8n, and all the dependencies installed and configured. So that allows us to take a lot of the kind of heavy lifting away from, having to do it ourselves. We've got some environment variables here, Obviously, you wouldn't be doing this in a real environment, but for the quick kind of test, and this is a quick test, we're going to set the auth user to be admin, and we're going to set the auth user secure password. I mean, you wouldn't be basically doing that, and ChatGPT also kind of provides a little kind of warning here that you shouldn't be doing this in having hard code real credentials in a Docker file, which is absolutely true. But I just want to actually sort of see, can we actually get it to run, to work? There's a couple of lines in here that if you actually had n8n workflows available, you could put them in this folder, and they're basically going to copy them over to this folder, to this location. We don't have any kind of workflows. I actually have some kind of workflows that I've kind of built out previously, but just to keep it really kind of straightforward and simple for today, we're just going to sort of say we don't actually have any workflows, so we'll just kind of keep this line commented out. And then finally, we're just going to expose the n8n service and web UI onto this port. So n8n, it basically does use 5678 as its default port. You can change that, but just for keeping it straightforward. So ChatGPT has kind of done a good explanation of explaining this Docker file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's say, go back to my folder. I'm going to take my build the Docker image line, which is this one, and I'm going to come out of this Docker file, and I'm going to say build my image, and you can see here it's pulling down the latest n8n. Now, I've built this previously, just kind of in the past kind of hour or two, just making sure that all of this kind of actually works freehand. But you can sort of see that, anytime that you kind of build out an n8n, it's going to pull down the latest n8n image here, which is kind of good. So now, if I kind of did Docker, image list, let's sort of see what we actually have. So we have an image called Agentic AI Flows n8n Docker. Okay, so we have that. So we built out the actual image, and we called it that, what we sort of said was look for a Docker file that's in the current directory. So if I also sort of say Docker container list, I don't actually have any kind of containers right now. So I have an image and I have no containers right now that's, related to n8n Docker. So let's kind of continue on. Let's pick up our next line that basically sort of says, okay, so I wanted to run the n8n app from the command line interactively. Okay, so I'm going to put this in here and I'm going to see what actually happens. So you just need to, copy file and copy the Docker file to your number 4 location. Okay, and you can sort of see here that what's actually happening here is when you've run this file here, it's actually initializing the n8n browser for us, because if you kind of look through, Docker gives a really kind of good explanation of what's kind of happening here as well. But you can sort of see the permissions are being set. Initializing the process. Okay, it's using that port. It's giving you some kind of indications that there's depreciations, which you'd kind of fix in a real and live environment if you were to really do this. You can also sort of see that the editor is now accessible via that location. Okay, you can also press O to go to the browser. But I'm going to kind of go here, and I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go here, and I'm going to see if I get something, which I do. Okay, customize this yourself to kind of all of your information, whatever, and send me a free license key. You can kind of get paid features for free forever. You can do your workflow history, advanced debugging, excuse and search, and tagging folders. Right now I'm just going to kind of skip all that, but it does sort of say that I do actually have n8n workflows up and running. So it looks like you can kind of click around here. You can just kind of have a little look. You can kind of create a basic workflow at a first step, manually trigger. You can kind of do stuff like this now. So if I kind of leave it out without saving, so I'm going to come back to this n8n, and I'm going to show you how you'd actually kind of use this environment. But the environment itself is actually up and running. And it also says here, try a pre-built one, send out an email. You could kind of have a play with these. I mean, again, we're just trying to sort of see if this is actually running and working, but it does appear to be. So I'm going to move on to the next video, and let's see you in a while.